zero mistakes. There's a book called The Giza Power Plant. Look it up. There's another book called Pyramid Energy, The Science of God, The Philosophy of Man.
Okay.
Caucasians know this. They're like, when I was in Egypt, when I was in the pyramids, Germans and Japanese was like surrounding me like, yo, how did y'all make this? I said, it's locked in our DNA of our children. But movies like Star Wars, that's one thing I say with brothers and sisters, we need to get into these sci-fi movies because what they're doing is telling us the truth on the side where they cannot. See, Caucasian, one thing he's smart, one thing he can say is, I show the truth. We think it's entertainment in the movies, but it's really they're leaking out certain truths and letting us kind of know, like on TV, like the what do you call it, the History Channel, dropping all kind of science. They had a thing called, I think it's called Islamic Inventions during the Moorish Age or something like that. Do you know they showed this thing of a little miniature robot? Now, this is like 1400s. A little miniature robot, the clock stroke 12, marched out, spurted some water out, the clock turned, spun around, some music came on, turned back around, and went back inside. I was like, yo, we were doing robotics back then. That's why they had to put us to sleep. That's why the story of Adam, you know, the story of Adam is like he had to be put to sleep before Eve could be taken out. Eve, remember, is all other races other than the original people, which is us, you know, the Africans, the so-called Africans and Asiatics. We say we're really Asiatics. African, as I mentioned yesterday, just has nothing to do with a continent. It has to do with the DNA and the soil that we talked about yesterday. Because Afro in Hebrew means the dirt, the soil. That's why I said, well, I'm not so, call myself African because I'm calling myself dirt spirit, a spirit that's enclosed with DNA. They started telling us we should call ourselves that back in 1980. Yeah, man. So, it's just we knowledge yourself. It all starts with knowledge of who you are. That's why right now I'm on this thing. I'm getting to do these bar mitzvahs and bet mitzvahs. These young boys and these young girls. A little boy needs to know how to be a man so he can, begin to, learn his trade. Because when Katrina happened, if and when it happens again, because I was in environmental studies too. When these glaciers start melting, all that other singing and dancing, all that kind of stuff, all that stuff's going to hold. People are going to want to know, what can you do? Can you fix a car? Can you take a car engine and turn it into a generator? Are you highly spiritual? You know what I'm saying? Can you control electricity, electromagnetic energies? You know what I'm saying? Can you cook? Can you clean? Can you skin an animal? Can you farm? What can you do? We're the biggest do-nothing people. That's why I'm not even worried about what nobody else is doing no more.
That's right.
Anyway, anybody else, it's all about us. Now, we are the Nova Source of Clearum. And I challenge anybody to come and tell me about the pyramid, the Illuminati. I don't want to hear that junk. That pyramid on dollar bill is our seal. It's a legal, lawful seal. That's why they did not change the dollar bill, did they?
No.
It's every other money.
They kind of made a few changes, but it wasn't that. And then speaking of seals, what you're talking about, we don't even realize that they are using seals on us every day, and the seals are all around us, and seals are used to pull down spiritual powers. It's just like in the Matunatur that teaches, just like some people I was saying, I used to wonder that, okay, well, if we were so great and we were so powerful, how did we fall so low to be basically they whore and they slave? We have positive entities. We have agreeable and disagreeable beings. So all of those beings are not actually there to honor us and balance us, just like you got a lot of African blacks that are against us. They look down on us and disrespect us. We have blacks, so-called blacks here with nigger mentalities, do not see the divinity in their own womb, in their own testicles. So it's easy for them to kill somebody and violate somebody and cheat them that looks just like the reflection they see when they look in the mirror. So these people are actually using these seals that they put on that money, and they know the power of a melanated mind. So they know that our mind basically works on hieroglyphs. Our mind works on vibration, color, sound, and images, and then the way they flip the words. And like you said, they went to vowel sounds with us and getting you to run letters together when we're not focusing on, first of all, we're not supposed to be reading from left to right. We're supposed to be reading from right to left and to look at each alphabet itself, not as English, but go back past the English to study the original text where each letter had a vibration and a sound. Because as you know, I learned that when I changed my name a couple of years ago, I did a legal name change, and I actually went to the Kabbalah Society. And that is what they told me. They said, well, were you thinking of a name? I said, yeah. And I told them, they said, no, sorry, it's not going to work. What is your birthday? And when they looked at my birthday, they analyzed my birthday, and they analyzed the name I had letter by letter. And they said, based on the vibration of each letter, and we put the letters together to create a name, and looking at your birthday, this name you have don't match you, and it's got to go. Now, based on your vibration and the day and the year that you were born and the vibration you came in on, this is the name you're supposed to have. Hello, BTR Mindy. Thank you for coming in and checking on us from Blog Talk. Based on that, that is what I decided to do. I went with the instructions that they gave me. So that's when I realized, too, that everything that we're doing, a lot of stuff they give us, they deliberately give us a lie. They deliberately give us a system, and they give us these names, or they teach us stuff to read about. I don't understand what that word is, bustrophetum writing, Alexyss. But I was led to do that when I changed my name. I was led to not, I was told intuitively that I had to have a spiritually balanced name. I was told what my first and my last name was supposed to begin with. I knew the letters it was supposed to begin with, and actually I knew it was supposed to be from the genetic background that I have, but I couldn't find a high priest or a rabbi to help me formulate that one. So I said, until that happens, I'll do the second best thing, and I will actually consult somebody that has studied the Kabbalah, now that I know is our system.
That's right. That's right. You know, it's interesting you talking about the directions. You know, hieroglyphics goes left to right, right to left, up and down, down and up.
Okay.
Notice that Amhetic goes from left to right just as clockwise does and Atlantic currents do. You know, and see one thing is a author named Schwal Delubich, and I'll mention authors and stuff so people want to do some further research. They can look into these names in these books. You know, Schwal Delubich, Symbol and Symbolic, he has a whole series of books too. He was like a French guy that went to Egypt and was like, this stuff, he wasn't really like racial based, it was just based on physics. Like, this stuff is so high-powered. And one thing we do not do is use both sides of our brain. So what they do is they kind of see for a balance. Now, left to right is not bad because Amhetic goes from left to right. You know, whereas we know Arabic and Hebrew actually goes both ways because we teach Hebrew both ways, left to right and right to left. You know, Arabic goes from right to left. You know, Chinese, which is, we took, that's our language, the Oriental stuff is our language too. Most people don't know that. That came during the Tang Dynasty, and during the 700 A.D., and even before that with Buddha, who had the afro and the big lips, and the sisters and the gods and their goddesses who look just like me and you. Their whole system of, the writing and the little stick figures, they got all stuff from us, but that's another discussion.
Yes, yes.
But both sides of our brain, we got a right side of our brain and we got a left side of our brain. It's interesting, in the bar mitzvahs, young rebbes or young boys that's training, at age of 13, we give a bar mitzvah. You begin to train them spiritually wise, like you said, teach them about Kabbalah and how to break down, the science of the alphabet. It's called gematria. And even like what they call three-card Marley, when you take letters and kind of flip them around, like Abra is ABR, like I mentioned yesterday, Bada is BRA. Like the three-card Marley is called Tri-Marley, which sounds like three-card Marley that we grew up with. And that deals with the tarot cards, which is a whole other science. Each letter has a tarot card that's associated with, along with the colors and everything else. But you have the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain. When a young boy is going through his bar mitzvah, you give him, it's called tefillin. It almost looks like, I guess in the 60s and 70s, and I may even hear it again, when they did the Heron, or if you saw Diana Ross's Lady Sings the Blues, they put the strap around their arm and tie it and, make their veins bulge and, they take Heron and all kind of crazy stuff. The tefillin almost looks like that. It's like a leather strap that you put around the arm that you're not. I can write with both hands. When I was young, I was born left-handed. Another story, when I went to Egypt, I was like, with all Virgos in the room, we were all left-handed or ambidextrous. But my mother made me use my right hand because she said when I get older, I'll be able to use both hands. And one thing that the tefillin does is, if you're right-handed, you put the tefillin. A tefillin is like a leather strap. If there's a Hebrew word, which in my rabbinical book says is actually Amharic letters inside of the tefillin. See the Caucasian Jews with the Jews with the beards with the all black. We are. They know the side. All they do is just kind of stick to the science. They're not really into the racial stuff. They're the ones that cut the diamonds and the gems and the emeralds and stuff. And if you get a good one, they'll tell you, "Oh, we learned this stuff from you." you know.
Well, first of all, let me interrupt you right quick because I know that that's not completely true. Them is some of the racistest motherfuckers around.